Hello, everyone, and welcome to this ADDC webinar. Um, I'd like to start by acknowledging country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. For me, it's the Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Just a bit of housekeeping, if we could move the slide on to um, Thank you. There's captioning available, and it's the link is in the chat. And I think there's also a closed captioning button, but definitely the link is in the chat. And there's also a question and answer function. If people could put their questions and answers in there, and people may answer them along the way, or we'll answer them once all the panelists have presented. Um, right, I'm Catherine Bloom. I'm the Executive Officer of ADDC, the Australian Disability and Development Consortium. And today we have an array of great panellists to talk about their collaborative efforts working towards improving financial literacy and accessibility for women with a disability to financial services in Indonesia. And as part of this work, they're advocating for systemic change. The, oh yes, So the captions, sorry, just recapping, the captions are available through the link, which is in the chat. Um, the project partners are Opportunity International Australia, the Terrella Foundation, Comida, and MSC. So the situation that we're looking at, I'm sure most of you are familiar with, is that 1 in 5 women live with a disability, placing women with disabilities at the intersection of gender inequality, disability based discrimination, and the digital divide. Digital exclusion is a central driver of this inequity. Inaccessible digital design, affordability barriers, and limited access to assistive technologies restrict independent use of digital financial services, even where connectivity exists. These barriers are most severe where gender and disability intersect, placing women with disabilities at a heightened risk of further exclusion as financial services rapidly digitise. In Indonesia, 1.1% of people with a disability have access to digital banking, and I'm sure we know that this is a pattern that's replicated across the developing world. So advocacy is needed to encourage the development of policies to support women with disabilities getting access to financial services and improving financial services. Our presenting organisations have been involved in projects that improve women's access and financial literacy, so they're using their experience to advocate for more programs and systemic change. Our first speaker today is Fifi Rashando, and she's the Gender Equity, Disability and Social Inclusion and Safeguarding Manager at Opportunity International Australia. Opportunity International Australia is an international development organisation working to end poverty by strengthening inclusive financial systems that enable women and families to build sustainable livelihoods. With a strong focus on women's economic empowerment, education and health, Opportunity partners locally to support women entrepreneurs to grow small business, build financial resilience and invest in their families' futures. So Fifi also is a member of the ADDC Executive Committee, which we thank her for. And Fifi will be distilling the lessons she's learnt in her program's experience to support advocating buy-in of organisations to support implementation of more programs and systemic change. So I'll pass over to you now, Fifi.
Thank you, Catherine. Today, I'll share lessons learned from Opportunity Journey, showing that real financial inclusion, especially disability inclusions, only happens through deliberate advocacy that drives systemic change. Globally, 1 in 5 women live with disability, yet women with disabilities remain among the most financially excluded. Inaccessible digital platforms, risk-averse assumptions, and absence of persons with disabilities from system design mean exclusion is built into how financial systems operate. At Opportunity, we learned early that values and projects were not enough to shift this reality. What created traction was strategic advocacy, starting internally aligning inclusions with risk, performance, and governance, then translating that credibility into systemic influence. Because financial systems are not neutral. Without evidence and pressure, they default to exclusions. Advocacy is how exclusion becomes visible, material, and actionable. The first lesson is that what is not governed and owned internally will not scale or sustain. Internal advocacy, therefore, became the starting point. Opportunity deliberately reframed disability inclusion from a value-only issue to one directly linked to governance, risk management, consumer protection, safeguarding, and ESG, new market acquisitions, and long-term sustainability. This commitment was then operationalized through an internal JETSI committee with champions across all departments responsible for implementing 42 concrete action plans over 3 years, embedding inclusion into how the organization functions. The second lesson is that advocacy gains traction only when inclusion is framed in the language decision makers already use. At Opportunity, we shifted from arguing that disability inclusion was the right thing to do to showing that exclusion creates material risk, weakens performance, and limits growth. Values alone didn't move decisions. Risk, evidence, and performance did. Buy-in came through discipline and clarity, using disability disaggregated data to make exclusion visible, safeguarding aligned risk assessment to show system failures, and making clear asks to endorse, resource, and pilot inclusion within core systems. That reframing moved disability inclusion from a nice-to-have strategy and risk priority, one that began shaping decisions, not competing with them. The third lesson is that internal practice is what unlocks external credibility. Once leadership endorsement was secured, Opportunity focused on embedding disability inclusion into our core organizational system, not treating it as a standalone initiative. This included inclusive recruitment, partner due diligence, risk management, safeguarding, and project cycle management. This alignment meant our advocacy reflected how we actually operate. As a result, we could credibly say to partners and policymakers, this is not just what we ask others to do. This is how we work. That consistency charged the conversations. Partners engaged more seriously. Ecosystem actors listened, and policymakers responded positively because our recommendations were grounded in tested and operational practice. The lesson is clear. Credibility is built through consistency between words and actions, and without it, advocacy loses influence. The fourth lesson is that intersectional data is a powerful advocacy tool, not just technical exercise. When excluded group remains statistically invisible, advocacy for inclusive financial services is fundamentally limited. Gender-only data often masks exclusions at the intersections of disability, age, income, location, and livelihood sector, leading institutions to design for an average customer who does not exist. Opportunity, therefore, encourages financial service providers to collect gender disaggregated data further broken down by age, functional ability, income level, urban versus rural locations, and sector. This reveals who is being excluded, where barriers occur, and how products and channels must adapt. Universal Design and Washington Group in the questionnaires then translate this data into action, making exclusion measurable and inclusion operationally accountable. And ultimately, We know advocacy is working only when more women with disabilities can access finance, actively participate, and contribute to the digital economy, not just in pilots or in little small projects somewhere, but at scale. The fifth lesson is that effective advocacy must be tailored to the ecosystems. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to systems change. At the international level, Opportunity uses global platforms like Center for Financial Inclusions or any UN platform to shape norms, positioning disability inclusion as integral to inclusive project or product development, responsible blended finance, responsible impact investing, digitalizations, and ESG agendas. In Australia, advocacy has shifted from project-level work to systemic influence, bridging gender equality, disability development and finance, and DFAT policy priorities, and reinforcing Australia's role as credible regional leader in promoting gender equality, disability equity, and rights. In Indonesia, advocacy is grounded in national regulations and financial inclusion strategies with a focus on economic participation and practical tools for financial service providers. The lesson is clear. Impact accelerates when disability inclusion aligns with existing priorities, incentives, and regulatory frameworks rather than criticizing or competing with them. Opportunities advocacy journey show that system change take patience, humility, persistence, and credibility. We learn 5 lessons. Start from within, speak the language of power, align practice with advocacy, make exclusion visible through intersectional data, and tailor action to context. My experience as an executive member of ADDC taught me that advocacy isn't something you run. It is not a campaign or project. It's something you commit over time. Financial inclusion fails if women with disabilities are left out. Advocacy makes exclusions visible, unacceptable, and actionable. Thank you.
Thanks, Fifi. Thanks for sharing your lessons from Opportunities experience. Next, we have Tien Mulyanthi, who's a prominent Indonesian entrepreneur, disability rights advocate, and social innovator. She is the founder of the Terala Foundation, a not-for-profit organisation established in 2022, and she empowers people with disability and female heads of households through vocational training, employment facilitation, and corporate inclusivity programs. In addition to her role at the Terala Foundation, Tien serves as the CEO of Terala Consulting, a Jakarta-based firm specialising in accounting, taxation, and business consulting services. Tien will be giving us clarity about the barriers faced by women with disabilities in digital finance in Indonesia. She'll also be sharing Rohana's story and showing the importance of participation of OPDs at every stage is vital for change. Thanks, Tien.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Before I start, I would like to thank you to Ibu Fifi for the excellent lesson learned that you just shared. It's very good for me to know. Now I would like to share about the disability challenges in access to finance in Indonesia. This is based on the insight and experiences from Terala Foundation. Next. Why accessing to finance in Indonesia is better for disability entrepreneurs? There are 4 items here. The first is because Indonesia has achieved 85% financial inclusion, but access to person with disability, especially women, still remains limited with persistent barriers. The second is there is access gap. Only 42.1 women with disabilities access digital financial services, compared with men in 60% rate. The third is there is literacy gap. Only 49.7 of women with disabilities understand the digital financial tools, compared with men in 63.3%. And there's also systemic barriers, the data gaps, the non-inclusive credit models, and misaligned financial products continue to exclude the vulnerable groups. Next, I would like to share a story about the disability entrepreneurs who has no access to finance, that it prevents her business to grow. So her name is Nurul. She sells coffee in a bazaar or based on pre-order customer. In bazaar, she can sell around 100 cups in a day. And in monthly basis, based on pre-order, she can sell 6 to 20 liters of coffee in a month. And the demand patterns during Eid and Christmas. And her customer is a high repeat order. So because she has no formal financing to increase production capacity and expand market, so she cannot grow her business. Next. So if Nurul has access to finance, she can scale up her production, she can increase her income, and even she can create jobs. So this kind of disabled entrepreneurs that is bankable entrepreneur, that the system, I can say the system is failed to recognize. So what are the barriers that disabled entrepreneurs is facing in accessing the financial product? The first is for sure the physical and accessibility barriers. There are still many bank branches doesn't have accessible facilities. There are still many stairs in a bank branch. And the ATM and digital banking platform are still difficult to use, especially for visual impairment. And lack of support facilities, no sign language interpreter or document forms are not available in accessible format. And also the procedural and administrative barriers. Some financial institutions still impose conditions that ignore disability-related needs. For example, when we would like to open the bank account, the form still needs the signature, which is hard for the visual impairment. And even the loan application are still complex and not accessible. The third barrier is, next, the attitudinal and perception barriers. Negative assumption about the ability of people with disability to run the business still persists. Bank staff often doesn't understand the needs and potential of person with disabilities. And business proposals from people with disability are often evaluated unfairly. In the economic side, actually, disability is still seen as a high risk clients because of the many unemployment. And in the policy and institutional, weak enforcement to inclusive finance policies, and still few incentive for financial institutions to include people with disability. So what are the impact of those barriers for people with disability, entrepreneurs, people with disability? Of course, because we are hard or too difficult to access the credit, it's hard for us to develop our business, to grow our business. And many ideas that we cannot be implemented because we have no support in finance. And all those cause us to still rely on family loan, or even we access the loan shark. On the contrary, I would like to share about Ibu Rohana. Next, please. Ibu Rohana is a disabled entrepreneur who has access to finance, which can transform her life and business. Ibu Rohana is member of Komida, and she said that savings and loans from Komida help her to expand her nasi uduk business. She could send her kids to school. She could renovate her home, build a proper bathroom, and buy a refrigerator to business her warung or food stall of nasi uduk or rice dish. So this demonstrates how inclusive financial services can unlock the economic potential among underserved group. Okay, we have this FGD held few months ago. FGD with disabled entrepreneurs in Jakarta. I would like to share you the video where it was held. Please. Okay, so from the video, we can see there are still multiple barriers, ranging from limited understanding of financial system, physical access challenges, to the lack of inclusive information. At the same time, many financial products already exist, such as mobile banking, social protection scheme like BPJS, and digital payment solution. However, the key question is, are these services truly accessible and inclusive? So the goal is not only to provide financial services, but to ensure they are genuinely accessible, understandable, and usable for everyone, including persons with disabilities. And, oh, sorry, okay. I would like to share the current project, the Kinetic FinCode Green project. It's the program initiated by Indonesia, by Trala Foundation and MSC Consulting, which aim to strengthening the capacity of financial services providers, the bank, non-banks, fintech, to integrate gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, or GETC principles into sustainable finance and climate change mitigation. So we have these two programs. The first one is to develop the GETC adjusted credit scoring tools. This toolkit helps financial institutions assess the credit worthiness for green MSME by complementing existing systems with inclusivity focused metrics. So it's not adding new program or new products, but it's complementing the existing system that the financial institutions already has. The second is about capacity building to increase the knowledge and skill of financial stakeholders regarding GETC integration within sustainable finance to ensure the alignment with the regulatory frameworks of OJK, the Financial Service Authority, and Bank of Indonesia. Next, so this is some of the pictures that we had when we had meeting with OJK, the Financial Service Authority, and the meeting with the financial institution, and the workshop we had for Kinetic projects. Next. So what are the next steps? So what needs to happen to build an inclusive financial system? So the first is improve data and visibility, strengthen the gender and disability disaggregated data to better understand underserved segment. Second is rethink credit assessment, integrate GETC perspective into credit scoring to better capture the true potential of MSME. The third is design inclusive financial product, develop financial products tailored to the needs and realities of women and persons with disabilities. The fourth is strengthen economic collaboration, foster collaboration between regulators, financial institutions, and development partners. because inclusive finance is not about equity. It's about unlocking the economic growth. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tian. That was great to hear about your current work and particularly with Banyuk Green, strengthening financial services and working with Ojaka, the government regulatory body. Next, we have Ramatatiki Febrianti, or Febi, who's a manager of Microsafe Consulting Southeast Asia, with 7 years experience in policy research, program implementation across gender equality, disability inclusion, and inclusive digital transformation. She leads MSC's work on integrating gender equality, disability, and social inclusion principles into financial services and into micro, small, medium enterprise development in Indonesia. Febi will share the vital importance of gathering evidence to support advocacy, which leads to systemic change. Thanks, Febi.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. First thing first, before we're going to the next slides, I want to give you a little bit of context about MSC. So MSC is a global consulting firm. So we focus on financial and social inclusions, and we have several offices in several parts of the world, and one of them in Jakarta as our Southeast Asia hub. MSC mainly do research, strategy development, implementations program, and also engagements with governments, with policymakers, financial service providers like Komida, and also donors, funders like OIA, and also NGOs, non-profits like Terala, to advance the inclusion agenda. And in that collaborations, we usually act as a knowledge partner. So we bring technical expertise to support the work. And that's what we also do when it comes to advocacy. So we build the evidence, the insights, and also the practical tools that could strengthen the advocacy efforts. So next slide, please. Yeah. So MSC as a consulting firm that specialize in social and financial inclusion, it's in our DNA to go to the last mile, to talk to people who are otherwise excluded. But the depth of that inclusion is something that we as an organizations continue to evolve and to grow and to learn continuously. That's also what exactly happening when it comes to disability inclusion. Our first baby step was including women with disabilities as respondents, as a resource person in a larger study on women and the future of work. So their experience shape the evidence base. And then we continue to evolve. We have our first dedicated disability inclusion research. So we review the products and service of microfinance institutions, which is one of the biggest in Indonesia, to see whether it's inclusive enough for their clients with disability, and it's with OIA as well. And we continue to evolve further beyond having persons with disability as respondents or as a research topic. Through our work with Terala that Ibu Tin has mentioned, and in the Australia-Indonesia Climate and Infrastructure Partnerships, persons with disabilities through organizations of people with disabilities like Terala, now with us design the engagement, drive the implementation agenda, and also sit in the table with the regulators, talk about how important disability inclusion is in terms of green MSME financings, which Ibu Tin has shown before. So it's quite a journey, and we have learned a lot. But one thing is certain, that inclusive finance must be intentionally designed with the voices of women and people with disability at the center. So that's the key takeaway from the journey so far. So next slide, please. Yeah, these slides I might go quickly. So these are the outputs that MSC has produced so far in terms of disability inclusions. So as I mentioned before, that we gather evidence and insights to inform policies and to inform the advocacy work, right? So first we have this intersectional evidence on financial access barriers. So we present this evidence to financial service providers as our clients, how to what extent their products and services are inclusive. And then we give them a concrete findings and also next step to build internal commitment and start to shape their strategy to be more inclusive. And secondly, it's mentioned as well by Ibu Tin that we build disability inclusive credit assessment tools for financial service provider. So this is a practical tool for them. It contains a how-to guide that they can actually use, and it's aligned as well with the regulators, what the regulators already have. So this is moving beyond just a research report. And the third one is we conduct a workshop with a financial service provider as a JETC sensitization for them, because not only understanding why JETC matters is important, but also then these stakeholders need to understand that there are business cases that women with disabilities are underserved and they are also largely untapped market. So these understandings need to be built first before we even use the tools and build the products and services. Next slide, please. Yeah, and the evidence and also insights that we documented and also the practical tools that we have developed hopefully don't just sit nicely on the bookshelves, but it's become a foundation to engage government and regulators in the broader advocacy works. So in terms of GESI, gender equality and social inclusion, MSc have been shaping the gender and social inclusion policy through our research and advisory. For instance, we help the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protections to develop a policy notes for their G20 delegations, and also we act as a technical advisor for Ministry of Social Affairs to evaluate the impact of their government to persons or social assistance program, and we are also working with Ministry of National Development Planning or Bappenas to design the future of generations of the social assistance delivery, which we make sure that it's inclusive enough for those who deserve them. And then we also, as I mentioned before, as an organization, we continue to evolve. In particularly as well in our engagement with government, we also evolving. So it's not just JESI anymore, but it's not JETC. So we have this disability inclusion elements now. We with Terala, we met with the Financial Service Authority or OJK through the Australia-Indonesia Climate and Infrastructure Partnership. So OJK already have guidelines regarding a financial service provider who wants to be more inclusive, right? They call it Setara guideline. But the problem is the Setara guideline mostly sit in the headquarter. You know, the implementation itself needs to be checked regularly until the branch level, because the branch level is actually the very essential level because they are the frontliner facing with the people with disability, right? And also they also have the green taxonomy as well, because this project with Australia climate program, it is all about green financing for MSME. So it's good also to contextualize their green taxonomy with the context of micro and small enterprises, because this segment is usually where women and people with disability are. So coming next, actually the agenda, we will have a next event with the Australian Embassy in Jakarta and also the Ministry of Cooperatives. So on 10th June, we will have we will co-host event with OIA and also the Australian Embassy. So this will be online via Zoom, a webinar. So we have an official launch of OIA's JETC tools and also Comida's animated disability etiquette videos. All these initiatives was funded through DFAT's ANCP program. But this is not just a product launch. So we also bring together the Minister of Cooperatives of the Republic of Indonesia and also the Australia's Counselor for Governance and Human Development. So they also will bring their insights to the forum. And also there will be civil societies, financial institutions, and organizations for people with disability. So yeah, please do register using the link on your screen. So yeah, hope to see you in June. So yeah, thank you, Catherine. Over to you.
Thanks, Febby. Yeah, we look forward to the launch and the function that goes with it for the tool. And it's great to see that you're working with policymakers and now including disability inclusion as well. Our last panelist is Afaris. Afaris heads up the Social Performance Management Division at Comida, where he has utilised his extensive experience over a decade to empower more than 900,000 women micro-entrepreneurs across 19 provinces in Indonesia. Faris is going to present Microsoft's approach that translates into service delivery support for women with disabilities.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone. I'm Faris as the head of the Social Performance Management Division in Comida. Yeah, I would like to share about our inclusive practice and some policy improvement with the support of the Cooperative International, Trela, and MNC. Next. Yeah, about Comida. Comida is the cooperative microfinance institution, and we operate with the grappling model operation. And Comida support the low-income women as the members with the financial and non-official approach. So the Grameen Bank is the financial services method who bring the finance provided to groups or the communities directly. So we bringing the services, not welcoming them to our office, but we deliver our services within our field officer in the community. So we are established in 2004 with the Legality Foundation, and starting in 2009, we are transforming to the cooperative. And as the January 2026, we have more than 300 branches in 3 provinces, and our members is over 800, almost 900 women all over in Indonesia. Next. Yeah, because we are not only focusing on the productive loan products, Comida also support the various investment type products to improve and deliver the impact for the entire household. So all the loans doesn't need the collateral, because as they mentioned with Fabi and routine, collateral has become the biggest challenge for women and people with disabilities as the requirement for the loans. And within the grading model, we overcome their challenge once one factor is the collateral. Next. Yeah, because we are using the grading system, we are addressing the challenge experienced by the woman with disabilities in getting the financial access. So Comida Field Officer help the members withdraw the savings, deliver the disbursement money directly into their hands, and do the transaction activities in the communities where the disabilities lives. And Comida started asking the Washington Questionnaire in 2019, and as of December, Comida serves more than 28,000 members with disabilities, and it's about 3.7% across in the 13 provinces in Indonesia. In terms of the percentage, it was small, but in the range of number, a lot of members with disabilities still join and become our members. Next. Yeah, we also want to introduce our champion in disabilities program. One of our staff also one of the disabilities one of have the disabilities. So his name is Henry, one of our 19 staff member with disabilities, and he also operate in the HQ. And as the experience, Henry had the illness and was forced to amputate one of his leg. And despite his disability, Henry remains confident and committed to his work, inspiring countless others with his resilience and determinations. So, because Komida using the Grameen Bank operations, Komida activities are more challenging than other financial services. So, Komida will still welcomes our staff with disabilities and which still be able to follow the program in Komida. So we are welcoming them to work with Komida and have carriers in Komida also. And the story from the Henry, Komida also support with provided him with a prosthesis leg. So he enabled him to regain his independence and working together with Komida. Next. Yeah. Because we are having the assessment with the Terala MSCM support with the for the international COBIDA assess so many various aspects which can improve our inclusivity through our programs. So the two things become the biggest improvement is COMIDA together with Terala and MSC. We are going to digitalize our various aspect in operation, and not only trying to digitalize our transaction, but also we are developing the app for our members. So one of our point to improvement is to make the app is meets the minimum standard for the members with the low vision barriers. And also we want to improve that the app is suitable for the screen reader app in this on the smartphone. And to improve our inclusivity reach, Komida also developed the animated videos to supporting our member with disabilities. So the videos is the service ethic guidance, and the material can be learned easily by the community staff, which is the majority is from the millennial and the Gen Z generations. Yeah, that's it for the Komida. Thank you, and we will invite you to collaborate with us in making disability inclusion in Indonesia financial sector a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Faris. Thanks for demonstrating your approach, how it translates into actual change in service delivery using intersectional data and universal design, the Washington Group questions, and partnering with OPDs, and also enhancing office accessibility and working with your staff with disabilities. That's the end of the formal presentations. I think you'll all agree that that's the power of partners coming together to advocate for change to the financial sector. And FIFI, the way it all works together has been fantastic, the way that it's been demonstrated. FIFI showing the lessons that they've learnt from opportunities experienced to support buy-in from organisations. And the Tien with looking at lived experience and going through the barriers that that need to be expressed for these changes to be made. And for MSC for demonstrating the evidence and the work that you've been doing with government and to make policy change and systemic change. Now, we've got time for questions, and we've asked people to put any questions they may have in the Q&A box, but I can't see any. So I wonder if it's working. It'd be great if people could put questions in. We have got some questions that we've prepared that we can use whilst we're waiting for some questions to come up. This question is for MSC and Tarala. Based on your experience, what have been the most effective approaches to advancing disability equity and rights in ways that enable genuine financial inclusion, particularly at a systems level? Who'd like to go first? Tien, I can see you've got your microphone off.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay then. So from our experience at Terala, the most effective approach to advancing disability equity in financial institutions are not programmatic, but they are systemic, structural, and embedded into how institution operates. So there are three keys that shift. The three key that we have seen work in practice. The first is shifting from beneficiary thinking to system design thinking. Most intervention fail because they still treat person with disability as recipient of support rather than as part of the system. So what we learn from working with women disabilities, which is entrepreneurs, is the problem is rarely the individual. It is the systems that was never designed for them. For example, like Nurul that I just showed previously, she has a business but she's still excluded because she doesn't have formal collateral. Her income is not documented in conventional ways, and the credit assessment system simply doesn't recognize her reality. So instead of empowering individual, we redesign the assessment system itself. The second is making inclusion operational, not conceptual. Inclusion only works when it translated into daily decision-making process. Through our work with financial institutions, we found that awareness is not the main barriers. Most institutions already agree with inclusion. The gap is they don't know how to operationalize it. This is why our approach is focused on embedding JETSI into their SOP and the credit workflows, using tools like segmentation, flags, and alternative data, and applying structured approach like Washington Group's questions to identify needs with stigma. And the third is co-creation with people with disabilities, not as consultation. So this is probably the most important lessons because in our FGD and validation session, what we saw was very clear. People with disability are not asking for easier access, but they are asking for fair recognition of their actual capacity. So if I can summarize in one sentence is real financial inclusion for person with disabilities happens when we stop trying to fit people into the system, but we start redesign the system to reflect how people actually live and do business. That's from a child foundation perspective, Catherine. Thank you.
Thanks, Tien. That was really, really good. Debbie, would you like to answer?
Yeah. So thank you, Butin. That was really, really insightful, and I agree. But back to your questions, Catherine, when we talk about systems level change, it's quite overwhelming, isn't it? So it has so many layers, like it has knowledge, awareness, products, services, and also policy. So but to start, I think based on our experience, the first thing that we have to do is to build the evidence first, through data, through insights, cases of why disability inclusion matters, what you will miss as a financial service provider if you are not inclusive, and where you currently stand in terms of inclusions. And after that, it's about what can be done next. So practicality become very important here. So how do we translate something from the research level to the practical level? This is what we did actually with Terala. With the Australia partnership, we built the JETSI integrated credit assessment tool in line with our research findings and also the guidelines by the regulators. And these practical tools can be used by financial service providers in terms of green MSME financing. But now the problem is how will they use the tools, right? So therefore, the awareness and knowledge is very, very important. Again, JETSI awareness understanding must not stop at the headquarter level, or in this case, Pak Faris level and Komida, right? Because you're a champion in the Komida, right? By how it translates until the branch level, until the security guards level. Because in Indonesia, when we go to the bank, first the first person that we face is the security guard, and in Comida probably is the field officer, right? So all this understanding must also come to that level. So we must build the system in such a way that this knowledge and awareness become SOP, and also as a basis to design products and services that are inclusive and even cater the needs of people with disability. So for example, assistive technology financing, or maybe specialized savings products, maybe for them to send their children to a specialized schools. So, and lastly, because today we talk about advocacy, um, the endurance, the patience, doing advocacy work is very important. Regulators here, like Financial Service Authority, play a crucial roles for banks and fintech, and in case of Comida, is the Ministry of Cooperatives. So we have to engage the actors that are relevant, not just one actors, but multiple actors. They may have already having guidelines in place, but it will be impactful in the future. I echo Ibu Vivi and also Ibu Tin that there will be incentives, right, for financial institutions to be genuinely inclusive. When it comes to green economy, let's say in Indonesia, Bank Indonesia has introduced macro-prudential incentives for banks who can channel credits to sustainable or ESG sectors. Why not something similar to disability inclusive finance, right? So this, hopefully we all have the stamina and the energy continuous collaborations. MSC is not, I definitely can do it alone. We need OPDs, and we need OIA, we need ADDC Comida as well. So yeah, that's my answer, Catherine. I think I saw a lot of questions from the audience.
Yeah. Well said, Feby. I couldn't agree more. It takes a collective to work on advocacy. Fantastic. Yeah, now the questions have been rolling in. I've got one from Alison Thorburn. This is to you, Alfaris. Your presentation and Fifi's emphasised the importance of data and the evidence-driven approaches. Please, could you share any challenges you found in implementing the Washington Group questions? Yes.
Yeah, sure. Because our targeting is the woman with the specific category. It's the low income woman, which most of them is living in the rural area. So the 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 first challenging is to make them understand the questions, because the Washington question actually is easy to implement, but sometimes the answer is based on the perspective from the answers. So if there's feels they have the challenge or barriers in the specific aspect, so we note that as the specific disabilities. So in terms of that question, because the answer is based on this perspective, we have to recheck again whether the person is still in the category with the disabilities or not. That's the first challenge. And because in the rural area sometimes they didn't realize that she is living with their barriers. Sometimes they are not mentioned that actually she feels or she have disabilities, but he still feels that or believe that he is living fine or without disabilities of all.
I'll go through the next question. This is it's probably an easy one. Will the slides of all organisations be available to help guide the evidence base in Cambodia? We're working on modelling a low capital threshold credit guarantee in Cambodia, and the systems change advocacy is critical. Are the panelists willing to share the slides? I can do that in an email after, where we can share the recording as well. And this is one more. Thanks so much to all the presenters. This is from Stephanie Cantrell. Thanks for the work to increase access to financial services for people with disabilities. This is another one for you, Faris. My question relates to Comita's moves toward digitising services, given Tien from Terrala's comment that digital literacy and access remains a barrier for some people with disabilities. Will this digitisation also include training and consultation by and with people with disabilities?
Yeah, because the positive point in the digitalization is to minimize our or mitigate our operational risk, of course, in the perspective of the financial institution. But because our operation and service are designed to minimize the challenge barrier with the people with disabilities, so we should make the digitalization more flexible. Because, for example, before digitization, we are delivering the money right into their hand, the cash money, because there are some barriers with the people not to get the cash easily compared with the other people. But with the digitalization, we are transferring our this person money into their account. So, but sometimes it's become moving the inclusivity with the operation because some of the people with disability still need more guidance, still need more help to get their money, for example. So we are not put the implementation to for all our members. So we are offering the options for them and make the digitalization more flexible. And that's become our standard to improving in terms of digitalization in our process.
Thanks, Faris. I might ask people if they want to come off mute and ask the questions themselves. There's one from Melinda Damayanti. Do you want to come off mute? If Lauren can take you off mute to ask your question. Is that going to work?
I think Dastagir asked if they could ask live, so I'll give them
Oh, yes, please.
and they can ask their question. All right, you're off mute, Dagastia. Might not be there. Oh, here we go.
Hi, Fifi. This is the second. Hi, Fifi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Fifi. I am the Sagir Ali Azam from India, and I am working with Navbharat Jagriti Kendra in India on the theme of disability. My question is very simple. In context of Indonesia, how many kinds of disabilities are found in Indonesia? If uh, can it be possible to engage all kind of disabled people under the financial inclusion in Indonesia? Very specific question I am asking for autism kind of disability. If it is found in Indonesia, is it possible to engage in financial inclusion? Thank you.
So the question is it possible to include child protections? Is it? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, yeah,
With
yeah.
with child protections. Yeah, definitely. Because like for instance, the way we design safeguarding with Comida, we also want to ensure that our safeguarding also could incorporate child protections, gender friendly and accessible by everybody. So to test that our complaint mechanisms are accessible by not just by women, but by person with disability, by older people, women in pregnancies, but also by children of our clients, right? Since our partner staff go to the field, they might encounter children. So definitely, we haven't included children with disability yet, but we could in the near future to develop proper complaint mechanism that is child friendly. Yeah, that it is in our strategy plan. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay. And
Dastagir.
how many kind of disability are found in Indonesia? If we will talk in context of Indonesia.
Ibu Tin, could you please answer? Thank you.
Yeah, do you mean the type of disability? Of course, there are 5 types of disability. Usually for the autism, you mentioned about especially on autism, right? So usually for autism there is pendamping. There's like kind of
Error.
assistant, carer. There's a carer to help him, to help them in assessing the financial product or the program that we have. But
Thank you. I might,
okay.
that's all we have time for. There's a couple of questions that are unanswered. I'll pass them, I'll email those to the particular panelists and perhaps they can answer it offline. But I'd just like to say thank you so much to all the speakers. It's been fantastic. And we've learned a lot. And also to thank you to those who prepared the session, particularly Fifi, because she coordinated it all the speakers, and to Lauren O'Connell, who's been doing the tech both before and during the webinar. Thank you very much. And also to Mandy, our captioner. Thank you. Now, just a shameless plug for ADDC. If you're not already a member, we invite you to join. And I'll send out an email enclosing the recording and the PowerPoints after this with the link to where you can join. And so you can be invited to webinars such as this and also to receive our monthly bulletin, which has information about what's going on in the sector, what's happening with advocacy particularly, and employment opportunities. Yes, so finally, I'd like to thank everybody who's attended and taking the time to learn more about disability equity and systemic change in the financial sector in Indonesia. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.